I found out my wife was plotting with her lawyer to divorce me and take my $500 million assets. 1 week later, she filed, then panicked when her plan completely backfired. You know what they say about having it all. It's a complete load of crap, and I'm about to tell you why. My name is Alexander Pierce, and at 42 years old, I thought I had cracked the code to the American dream. Hell, I didn't just crack it. I demolished it, rebuilt it from scratch, and slapped my name on it in gold letters. Pierce Logistics wasn't just some rinky-dink operation running packages across town. We were moving mountains of cargo across continents. And every shipment that crossed our network added another zero to my net worth. $500 million and counting. Baby. Not too shabby for a kid who grew up eating cereal for dinner 3 nights a week. But here's the thing about success in America. It's like wearing a tuxedo to a barbecue. Sure, you look good, but you're sweating your ass off underneath, and everyone's waiting for you to spill sauce on yourself. The difference is, I thought I had found the perfect woman to share this beautiful air-conditioned nightmare with. Isabella Pierce. Yeah, she took my name, which should have been my first red flag right there. Any woman who's that eager to rebrand herself is probably planning her exit strategy from day one. Isabella was what you'd call a classic Manhattan trophy wife, except she was smart enough to make you forget that's exactly what she was. Tall, blonde in that expensive way that screams, I've never seen the inside of a drugstore hair dye aisle, and blessed with the kind of smile that could sell us cubes to penguins. She had this laugh that made boardrooms go quiet, and this way of touching my arm during dinner parties that made every other guy in the room wish they were me. For 6 years, I genuinely believed I was the luckiest bastard in New York City. Our life together was like something out of those glossy magazines they stack in dentist offices. You know, the ones that make regular people feel like garbage about their own lives. We had the penthouse on the Upper East Side with floor-to-ceiling windows that made the city look like our personal snow globe. Every morning, Isabella would glide around our kitchen in silk pajamas that cost more than most people's rent, making me coffee with this little smile, like she was harboring some delicious secret. And every morning, like clockwork, she'd kiss me goodbye before I headed off to make another few $1 million. Her lips tasted like vanilla and promises, and I ate that up with a spoon. The thing about being rich in America is that everyone wants to study you like you're some exotic species. Business magazines wanted to know my secrets. Competitors wanted to know my weaknesses. And socialites wanted to know if Isabella and I were as perfect as we looked in those charity gala photos. And you know what? We were absolutely perfect. At least that's what I told myself every single day for 6 years. We were the couple that other couples aspired to be. The success story that made people believe in love and capitalism and all that. Beautiful American, but perfection, as it turns out, is like a house of cards built on a windy day. All it takes is one little breeze to knock the whole damn thing down. That breeze came on a Tuesday night in November, around 11:47 p.m. to be exact. I remember the time because I was in my home office going over some logistics reports for a major client in Singapore. Isabella had gone to bed early claiming she had a headache from her spinning class. Yeah, spinning class. Because apparently rich wives in Manhattan need to justify burning calories they never actually consume. I was just about to call it a night myself when I heard her voice drifting down the hallway. At first, I figured she was talking to her sister or one of her socialite friends. Isabella was always chattering away with someone about yoga retreats, or whatever charity event was happening that week, but something about her tone made me pause. Her voice was different, hushed, urgent, sharp around the edges like broken glass. This wasn't girlfriend gossip. This was something else entirely. I found myself creeping down our marble-floored hallway like some kind of suburban spy, feeling ridiculous, but unable to stop myself. The closer I got to our bedroom, the clearer her words became, and each syllable hit me like a punch to the gut. He has no idea, she was saying, and there was this cold satisfaction in her voice that I had never heard before. The lawyer says once I file, everything's mine. The penthouse, the business assets, all of it. Alexander's too trusting for his own good. He never saw this coming. I pressed myself against the wall outside our bedroom door, my heart hammering so hard I was sure she could hear it through the phone. This had to be some kind of mistake. Maybe she was talking about someone else. Maybe this was research for some book club novel about divorce. Maybe I was having some kind of stress-induced hallucination brought on by too many 18-hour workdays. But then she laughed. This low, satisfied chuckle that made my blood turn to ice water and said, "Trust me, Damien, by the time we're done with him, Alexander Pierce will be lucky to afford a studio apartment in Queens." Damien, she was talking, to a man named Damien. And whoever this guy was, they were planning to destroy my life like it was some kind of fun weekend project. My chest went completely hollow, like someone had scooped out everything inside me and left nothing but empty space and the echo of my own breathing. I stood there in that hallway for what felt like hours listening to my wife. The woman who had shared my bed for 6 years, who wore my ring, who smiled at me every morning like I was her personal sunshine, discussed the best strategies for stripping me of everything I had built. She talked about asset division like she was planning a dinner menu. She discussed my business vulnerabilities like she was critiquing a movie. She spoke about my future poverty with the kind of glee most people reserve for winning the lottery. The worst part, the absolute worst part, was realizing that her smile every morning, those vanilla-flavored kisses, that perfect life we had built together, it was all an act, a performance, a long con that had been running for 6 goddamn years. And I had been too stupid, too trusting, too blinded by success, and loved to see it coming. I finally managed to drag myself back to my office, closing the door as quietly as possible. I sat there in my leather chair staring out at the Manhattan skyline, wondering how the hell I had become such a cliché, the successful businessman destroyed by his beautiful wife. It was like something out of a bad movie, except this was my life, and there was no director yelling, "Cut," to make it stop. My wife wasn't planning a future with me, she was plotting my destruction, and apparently she was having a blast doing it. You know, what's funny about having your world completely shattered? Life just keeps on trucking like nothing happened. The sun still comes up, the coffee still tastes like coffee, and your backstabbing wife still glides around the kitchen in her 1,000 pajamas like she's auditioning for some twisted remake of the Step Forward Wives. Except this time, the wife is planning to financially murder her husband instead of just being creepola perfect. The morning after my little eavesdropping adventure, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a freight train driven by my own stupidity. But there was Isabella, right on schedule, humming some nameless tune while she fiddled with our ridiculously expensive espresso machine. Same vanilla perfume, same silk pajamas that probably cost more than a decent used car. Same practice smile that I now realized was about as genuine as a $3 bill. "Good morning, darling," she cooed, sliding a perfect cup of coffee across our marble countertop. "You look tired. Rough night at the office, if only she knew." I wanted to grab her by those perfectly manicured shoulders and scream, "Yeah, Isabella, real rough night discovering that my beloved wife is planning to financially assassinate me." But instead, I just nodded and mumbled something about the Singapore client being demanding, because that's what you do when you're still processing the fact that your entire marriage has been a lie. You make small talk about international shipping, routes. She leaned over to kiss my forehead, and for a split second I almost believed it was real, almost, until I noticed her phone clutched in her other hand like it was surgically attached. That little black rectangle had become her most prized possession, and now I knew why. It wasn't just social media and shopping apps. It was her direct line to whatever legal vulture was helping her plot my downfall. "I have a lunch with the girls today," she said, scrolling through her phone with the kind of focus most people reserve for disarming bombs. "Probably won't be back until late afternoon. The girls, right?" I'd bet my left kidney that the girls was code for my scheming lawyer boyfriend, who's helping me steal $500 million. But I just smiled and nodded like the oblivious husband she thought I was. "Sounds great, honey. Have fun." As soon as she disappeared into her walk-in closet, which by the way was bigger than most New York apartments, I started paying attention to things I'd been blind to for months, maybe years. It's amazing how much you miss when you're not actually looking for betrayal in your own home. First, there were the phone calls. Isabella had always been chatty, sure, but lately every conversation seemed to involve stepping out of the room or lowering her voice to a whisper. She developed this habit of taking calls in the bathroom with the water running, which should have been my first clue that something was seriously wrong. Emin, who needs that much privacy to discuss yoga classes and charity luncheons? Then there were the documents.